What's up, party people? So I'm getting organized over here a little bit. Making sure I can hear myself. Josh!
Didn't see you there. What a surprise.
I'm so excited for your story.
My story?
Yeah.
What's my story about?
Your bedtime story. That's what I'm excited for. Your bedtime story.
Why I couldn't think of one. I'll tell one at the end.
All right.
No one tucks them in like me here.
No one tucks them in like me, is that what I said?
Yeah. I tell a great bedtime story.
If you're on the stream, let me know that you can just hear us okay, because I know you guys are watching, so.
What should we talk about?
We should talk about
Politics?
things.
I'm always down to talk about politics. Chinese food?
Are you pro or anti Justin Trudeau?
Well, that's
Have
a
you heard of
broad
this yet?
question.
You haven't heard on this yet, have you?
Whoa, the blackface thing?
Yeah.
Well, of course I'm pro his politics, but the shocking thing about that is that how commonplace that used to be, that all these freaking politicians are getting caught. The political class, it was clearly accepted.
Way to go, Justin. You done messed up.
Justin Bureau?
All right. Shall we begin?
Hold on one sec.
We're sort of throwing, so just a little context. Josh
don't
has
know what we're
things to
doing.
do on Thursdays, so he had to kind of rush over here. Thank you, Josh, for making
Oh,
it
what a
happen
pleasure.
tonight.
No,
We appreciate you tucking us in so late.
Who would you
And,
rather tuck you in than me? I mean,
Nobody.
The
Your uncle Joshie over here.
sultry tones. Well, now
Your
I sound
uncle
like
that no one ever
molester.
wants, and clearly no one has.
I sound like a molester now. Uncle? Why'd you choose uncle?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're implying that
I'm not implying anything.
I'm sort of.
I didn't say anything about that. You said those
Well,
words.
you know.
Those are your
When
words
an
out of your
when an
mouth.
uncle tucks you
From
in,
your
the
brain.
connotations aren't always perfectly legal.
I'm tucking my nephews in.
Well, yeah, you're. It's different.
Oh, no, come on.
You just said anybody. You just said I'm. Okay. Let me get. Who scored? Pulled up.
So yeah, little context. He's not running late. We knew we were going to start around this time. Just busy. We got busy schedules, so
Yeah.
we had to kind of push it back a little bit later than normal. Normally we'd start around 8:30, so we're around 9:10 right now. So we're rushing this a little
And
bit.
we love you guys.
So not the greatest of quality content here, but we're gonna give it all 10% that we typically
If
give.
you're expecting quality content, that is on you, my friend. You came to the wrong place. I'm ready.
All right.
Let me see. Oh, the DSSRT.
I don't know.
I'll quickly.
And we're gonna take a lot of your questions. Should they be relevant to what we're talking about? So put them in all caps, please, and we'll get to them as we see fit. All right, ready? What's up, Atlanta? This is the MOTS Podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the Palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana, Josh Bagriansky next to me. And tonight we celebrate victories.
Yes.
Well, a victory. We celebrate dominance.
Dominance, you say?
We celebrate the continued reign of the King of the South, Mr. Joseph Martinez.
Yeah.
More importantly than all that, we have you tucking us in tonight. You've got a bedtime story for us.
Yeah, you're really pitching this bedtime story.
Are you telling me you don't have a bedtime story?
Last time I was here, I left in humiliation after I talked about the Nicholas Ventnor story that was 3 years old, and now you want me to tell a bedtime story.
And for all you know, this is part of that ruse. or a ruse just like it, I should say.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'll think of something by the end of the show.
All right.
Any recommendations would be great.
I'm saying something Joseph Martinez related, considering he is the man, the myth, the legend. And holy moly, what a couple of goals he scored. And we can get into how they scored it and how the game ultimately went last night. But that goal, look, we talked just a few weeks ago about his top goals. with Atlanta United.
That's probably the best. That probably takes the cake, right? I mean, between the first touch and faking out a couple of defenders and on his weak foot, although he's pretty much 2-footed.
You'll always have the one that breaks the record against Orlando City with the look back or the stare back.
That's up there.
That's always going to be hard to beat. But this one, my goodness, the way he kind of just does it all himself. I'm not necessarily convinced that the scorpion kick didn't go off the dude's face. So I'm not giving them full credit until I can find another angle, because I'm pretty sure it goes off the dude's face. But whatever. I give him credit for the effort. Don't know that it's – I just need to be proven – I need proof that it didn't go off his face.
The first touch, you mean?
The scorpion
Yeah. I mean, I think even if that does take a deflection, I mean, the ball went the way that Joseph intended for it to go. So, I mean, I still think that touch, whether – that's interesting. I didn't think there was a deflection, but
maybe there wasn't.
But there totally could have been.
I remember seeing it. I was like, I mean, I realize what he's doing. I know what he's doing.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I mean,
he's trying to. Yeah.
To me, it's like, if there's a deflection, but what he intended to happen happened, and that touch is what to me seals the deal of this being his best goal, aside from the way that it ended and all that. But
and weak foot and all that.
Yeah, and then I think you need to realize.
Can you really call it his weak foot at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he's
completely
2-footed. I mean, that's one of those strikes where the moment it was off his foot, you're thinking that's back corner, upper 90. I mean, just a brilliant strike. And then the first goal was a great finish too, set up by P.T. Martinez with a good pass. So your individuals definitely carried you in Cincinnati.
A 2-0 win for Atlanta United over the dreadful FC Cincinnati, a team that is it officially the worst team in league history? I think it is, right?
Yes, they are pretty bad. And look, they are pretty bad. It's partly honestly, they played 2 of their better matches against us.
Well, what I was going to say is that if not for all the injuries, they might have a better season. But they've had a hell of a season in regards to injuries. It's kind of incredibly unfortunate that their season has kind of gone the way it has. You've missed on players that you brought in. I'm not going to say you came in too fast, but at the same time, some of the player acquisitions kind of indicate that maybe you were doing things maybe a little too rushed, or maybe with not the sense of not the level of patience that a team like Atlanta United would want when acquiring a player, or when really trying to decide what players to bring in. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that they're really bad right now.
Yeah. I mean,
and for a while, for about 60 minutes, 55 minutes, I was convinced this game wasn't going Atlanta's way.
Well, you thought
I was preparing for the loss.
We're going to lose.
I was preparing for the loss.
And tweeted out, of course, to scare the you-know-what out of our entire fan base. Fortunately, even Cincinnati, that's how bad they are. Eric, even the Dread God, Eric. I mean, when you roll out that lineup. But I'll tell you one thing, Eric. The game was very – I mean, one thing you saw is how bad Cincinnati is. They're considerably worse than Columbus, who are one of the worst teams in the league. The matches were very similar, I thought, the Columbus and Cincinnati matches, the way that they went. But just Cincinnati's lack of quality, they weren't able to create quite as much as they wanted. But I think, we can sit here and talk about Joseph Martinez and P.T. Martinez, whose assist was, I think, going very untalked about with that first goal. He was brilliant.
Splits the defenders.
It has to worry you a little bit, though, that you just played 2 of the worst teams in your conference, 2 of the worst teams in the league. And basically, it came down to individual quality. Against Columbus, you didn't finish your chances. You conceded a good amount on the other end. Columbus finished them. Against Cincinnati, you got those 2 moments of individual brilliance, and Cincinnati didn't finish. But this was easily a game that could have gone so similarly to the way the Columbus match did, with just a little bit more. If Cincinnati were a little bit better at soccer, it's simple as that. They just didn't have the quality.
I think next year a game like this, Cincinnati absolutely wins.
But I'm a little worried, Eric, because like I said, you've played 2 real bottom feeders, and I think that teams are starting to figure out, I think, Atlanta United, where the weaknesses are. We've talked about the wing backs both basically being attacking wingers for several, it seems like, months at this point. It seems like teams are catching on to it. It seems like teams are catching on to the fact that you don't have a super disciplined 6 in Eric Remedi positionally, and you can pull him out. And so you've seen 2 matches in a row where teams have allowed Atlanta to hold possession, and they've still been able to look dangerous on the counterattack. And we're talking about Columbus and Cincinnati. And if you can't control the match against those 2, then I worry about what you're going to do against more quality opponents when you go into the postseason. So to me, this Atlanta United team, with not much time left to the playoffs, you need to find an identity. And I don't know if it's this. I don't know if it's Justin Meram and Julian Gressel as your wingbacks in a crazy, aggressive 3-5-2, 3-4-3 formation. You're just so exposed at the back, and I don't think you've shown the attacking consistency in the system you're playing to control the game enough where you're not conceding those counters all the time when you're exposed. So I think there's a lot from these last 2 games that you have to be kind of worried about, and 3 matches if you go back to the Philadelphia match, where you've really been in matches that have been far too open. Yes, they're matches you could have won, a little more quality, but you don't want to just be winning matches from your individuals. You want to have a solid system. You want to have a disciplined defensive game plan, and that hasn't been the case for Atlanta United over this last month, whether it be top opponents or bottom feeders.
Well, for me, it indicates one huge thing. Well, two enormous things. One is that it makes me think, when is Barco coming back? Because he seems to be the key to make this entire team go.
And as far as playing with a clear identity, it's been with him in the lineup that you've kind of seen the ability to, yes, play the possession Frank de Boer wants, but also be solid enough on the ball where you're not being exposed on the counter. When he's out of the lineup, it's totally a different story.
The second thing is that Atlanta United doesn't seem like a team, at least without Barco, that really can dictate any part of the match. Even though they won this match, they didn't dictate so much the way they wanted to play, because they basically succumbed to what FC Cincinnati gave them. I sat there and watched them continue to kind of try to. They're dependent on Meram and Gressel on the wings. They can't really work the ball inside anywhere. I retweeted something Felipe said about essentially quick passes in the middle of the field is the way to break this. And I said this last year. I said the year before. We've known that a team that bunkers is Atlanta United's kryptonite. They're not consistently technical enough in the middle of the field, in tight spaces, to break a team down like that. Even as bad as a team as Cincinnati is, who look defensively, they're awful. So if there's any team that you want to at least work something like this on, it's a team like FC Cincinnati. Without Barco, that's not going to happen. For whatever reason, Pity's not that player. Joseph, he's amazing going to goal.
Oh,
he's gotten so much.
He's a striker. I mean, he's not going to influence the possession play.
He's gotten so much better at playing with his back to goal, even in those tight spots. But Gressel, Meram more so than Gressel. I'll give Meram a pass a little bit, but he hasn't been put in those positions to play in those tight spaces as often as I'd like. Hyman hasn't been that player either. Nagby has shown flashes, but it doesn't seem like he's too concerned with really pushing that far forward. And I don't know that we necessarily want him to be. Mm-hmm. I think we still want him outside along the edges of where Atlanta United is essentially, because without Nagby in the middle of the field, I think that more often than not not more often than not, but you're losing possession more often in the middle of the field and having counters go the other way without Nagby controlling or being that pivot guy that can sometimes switch the field a little bit. But with Barco in the starting 11, you at least have a better chance of getting those quick 1-2s that open up space for someone else in a position that maybe the defense isn't noticing at that particular moment. We just don't. There's not a lot of movement in the middle of the field to really open much up. What Atlanta resorts to is what everyone seemingly hates, is circulating the ball around through the back line, back to the other end or the other side, the other wing, eventually pumping in crosses. I think, like most people, I'm kind of sick and tired of how often Gressel, Meram, not as much, because Meram is a little more technical on the ball, but how often Gressel's pumping in crosses. You got neither of those players cutting inside to start a run of their own. It's either feast or famine with Joseph Martinez. And as of late, it's been you see what the results are when you just depend on Joseph Martinez. You get a goal from him in the last 3 matches, 15 altogether. But what we're talking about is the last 3 where Atlanta United hasn't looked as great as crisp as they want to be. But you look at how this team has scored, and it's essentially all through Joseph. You can't – I'm not saying he can't do it. You can't put the team on his back, but you're seeing what it's like without a guy like Barco who's able to feed more to Joseph, who's able to open up more space for a guy like Pity to then distribute to different parts of the field. The difference with Barco is that just everything opens up.
Yeah,
everything opens up. Whether it's the attention that he draws or the runs that he makes. But when it's just Joseph making those runs, because I'm yet to see Mir make that run. I'm yet to see Gressel make that run in the last few matches. You're allowing the center backs, you're allowing the back line as a whole to essentially focus just on Joseph and where he is. So that makes it really easy for guys like Petey, for guys like the Hyndman, for guys like Mir, and for guys like Gressel to kind of get stuck with who to pass it to and not really have an option other than to pass it back. It wasn't until you saw basically in the second half, late in the first half and in the second half, when you saw Cincinnati getting some more chances than they had gotten previously, that the game kind of opened up and allowed for Atlanta United to start a counter. You saw that all of a sudden Guzan isn't playing the ball short off a goal kick.
Yeah.
That was deliberate. That was, to me, that's direction from Frank de Boer. Because he knows, all right, well, we tried it my way for the first 45-ish. And also, we got to change it up, otherwise we're never going to score. Yeah, and it's through the pressure from Tito that Joseph gets the second one, and it's again it's Guzan starting the counter that goes to what the first goal was.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, the fact that your two goals came in a rare moment where you were back defensively, and the first goal comes off a counter, so from a corner, from Cincinnati's corner, so. That means Cincinnati's defense is not back in set, right? And then the second goal, a little bit similar, where you win the ball back at midfield and you get to kind of attack Cincinnati when they're unsettled. So neither of those goals came organically doing what you wanted to do. And that's okay. I mean, you're not always going to score
I'm not mad at it.
Attacking-wise the way you intend. But again, it's a little bit worrying to me because you haven't. I mean, even the goal against Columbus is a direct. I think that might have came from Guzan too, where then Hyndman quickly over the top to Petey. That was an own goal, by the way. Why was that goal credited to Joseph? Anyways, whatever. Anyways, because the streak is a little questionable. Yeah. That was clearly an own goal.
That's the streak continues. Own goal.
That was an own goal. But
I heard someone trying to argue it that was still going on goal, and I was like, come on.
It looked like it was clearly off frame.
That ball was going to hit the corner flag.
Yeah, it looked. Yeah, so I mean that's just absurd. But regardless, I think you have to worry a little bit about that because I think Barco, to go back to your point earlier, Eric, about who has the technical ability to create passes and create plays in those tight spaces in the last third against a bunkering team. I would disagree that Atlanta United don't have technical enough players to maintain possession in those areas, but Barco is the player who can go into the bunker and still create. Emerson Hyndman can't do that.
I think that's more what I mean because I know that they clearly can maintain possession. They do. They had like 80% possession the entire first half or whatever it was. The outrageous
it was close to 80.
Yeah, I mean, I know they can maintain possession in the opponent's half, but it's penetrating the back line.
Yeah,
it's getting into more dangerous positions and creating chances. That's where I see where this team is not consistently technical enough.
And Barco is the one who does that. I mean, who can basically get in between 3 or 4 defenders in the last third and still be able to make a positive play going to goal. Joseph is good at that too, but like you said, he's a 9, so he's usually on the last defender. He's usually not in that position. P.T. Martinez can do it, but as we said, he's more of a dribbler first type in those situations, whereas Barco can give you a little bit of everything. So, I mean, it's clear to me that if Atlanta are going to play the way Frank de Boer wants, that the only way they can do it and control the tempo of the game for 90 minutes the way you're saying, Eric, is with a player like Ezequiel Barco. I mean, and I didn't think it was fair to Emerson Hyndman to ask him to basically do the same things that Barco is doing.
Definitely not that player.
If I'm playing Hyndman, I would have gone more of a withdrawn center midfield, and as opposed to playing Hyndman high up the pitch and then having him try to fill it on the left side like Barco does going forward. I thought it was just too much to ask of him. He's also not a great high press player. He's tiny. Well, he's not short, but he's small. Not the most muscular guy. So he's not going to be great in the high press. So I think that, if you go Barco for Hyndman, it's not that Hyndman's a bad player, but he doesn't offer any of the dynamism that Barco does. So I think you have to change your tactics up and not expect to furiously high press while also having 65 to 70% possession, while also being good enough on the ball not to be exposed on the counter. I just don't think you can do all of that at once with Barco out and Hyndman in his place. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with the knee injury with Barco. But to me, if he's, and I would predict he will play a part, going forward, that he'll be healthy and fit by the playoffs. But without him, and to some extent with him, this team really has no identity whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's worrying because, like I said, the expectation for Atlanta United is to win MLS Cup. So it sounds like I'm bashing this team that's had a very good season and all that. The expectation is to win MLS and compete for MLS Cup, and you're not going to do it when you're playing with this lack of balance and you're conceding opportunities. You're losing the XG battle to Columbus and Cincinnati. What's going to happen when you have to play NYCFC or Philadelphia? We saw what happened against Philadelphia a few weeks ago.
So Atlanta United is suffering from the same problem a team like FC Cincinnati suffers from, and a team like Portland suffers from, where when they're on the ball, when they have more of the possession of the ball right now, the way Atlanta United is constructed, they're not as great as they can be. They're better suited being off the ball, much like Portland is. If you watched the game for Portland a couple nights ago, you saw how good they were when they were in transition, when they didn't dominate possession. That's exactly how Atlanta United thrived, especially with a guy like Barco in there. But without a guy like Barco, there's no one, like you said, it's not fair to Emerson Hyman to fill that role.
And you can play both ways with Barco. You can play more fast counter,
sure,
or you can play more possession because, like we just said, he can give you that quality in the last third under pressure.
But like you said, it gives you options. It makes you much more dynamic. But when your style of play is essentially dictated by whatever the other team wants to do defensively, like it was yesterday. And look, it was a good win considering the way Atlanta United played. And I expect that if they're going to play without Barco, that's essentially how they're going to play. This is what you can expect from Atlanta United moving forward. You're not going to like it, but there's really no other option.
I mean,
there's nothing you can do unless you're going to concede possession. Which, look, I think that Atlanta United went into this match not expecting to dominate possession the way they did. I think they wanted to concede possession.
Yeah. Because when a team gets behind the ball,
you can't really do anything.
Yeah, right.
And you saw when the moments that FC Cincinnati did have the ball, especially in the first half. Most of the first half, whenever they did have the ball, it was used launching it forward, hoping to catch something on the break. But that just didn't happen. It was either the passes were too long, or maybe that was it, or they were just bad passes altogether. But there's not much you can do as Atlanta United. What are you going to do? Just drop back and let FC Cincinnati come to you? You're still in the same boat because they're all still in front of you.
There's nothing else you can do.
You've opened up a little bit more space, but that's not enough. You wouldn't need FC Cincinnati or a team like FC Cincinnati to press the hell out of you for you to drop back. It makes no difference whether they're filling up the entire half of the field or they're filling up the entire Atlanta United's entire final third.
Yeah,
the effect is the same. Because you're not going to have the movement, the space you need for guys like Pity. Pity needs a ton of space. So does Joseph. Not as much.
Mm-hmm.
But Joseph in any part of the field other than the final third, inside the box, needs a ton of space to be effective, to be able to launch something forward. Miram and Gressel, I love Miram because he at least is going to attempt at attacking the player.
Yeah.
And try to make his job a little bit easier as opposed to just pumping crosses into, four center backs and hoping Joseph can out-jump him. Look, that works sometimes, but it's not a recipe for consistency.
Yeah, but
success. Not when the entire team is essentially in the box.
And I think that's more in it. Also, Miram's playing on his weak side, so he's not going to be able to put in as many crosses, and we've seen him use his left foot several times, and it is not always the most accurate. I don't think Justin Miram is the long-term solution at left wing back. I think you've got huge issues playing a player like Miram, who it's fun when he's on the ball and he's in space and he gets to go 1v1 and we see what a good dribbler he is, but he's not. You play Julian Gressel on the right as an out-and-out attacking wing back because he gives you 10 assists a year. Justin Miram doesn't give you that. I mean, I think he's gotten a lot of praise, probably deservedly so. And Frank de Boer's kind of fell ass backward into having him at left wing back because obviously it was not the plan. I don't think it's a long-term solution. And I think teams are figuring out Atlanta United when you put an 11 out there and you play 3 in the back and your 2 outside wing backs, box-to-box midfielders, whatever you want to call them, are Justin Miram and Julian Gressel. That's totally giving away how you're going to play, right? You already know that the wide flanks are going to be super, super attacking, and you can be exposed in those areas. And
they're going to give you the wide flanks because they.
Well, that's the way those guys play. I mean,
it doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
If you ask Justin Miram to sit back and play like a Chris McCann traditional left back, he's going to struggle because he's better going forward. And same with Julian Gressel. And it's not a bad thing, but you see that team sheet, You see those two guys, and you know right away, okay, we're going to get into the wide areas. And we saw Columbus, go after Phil Pogba over and over and over and over again, targeting him down that side, knowing that
they do the same thing. They're doing the same thing.
And look, I think Atlanta United, you could counter that and say, look, if we have our three healthy center backs, and you didn't have that against Columbus, but if we have Robinson, Perez, and Escobar, those three guys are good enough 1v1 where we can get away with being called forward. Although Escobar hasn't been in the best form recently. But my issue is it's happening. If we saw the same thing with Atlanta United last year. You get caught forward, you get countered, but as the team improved, you didn't see it as often. It's going to happen, but for it to happen to the tune of 1.7 xG or whatever Cincinnati had, and then to the tune of Columbus, having 35% of the possession, but still having double-digit shots and having a bunch of chances to score, that's too open. If you're going to play against a team that's bunkering, or you're going to play even against a team that's pressing you and you have a lot of the ball, that means you're going to be pressed up and exposed. And if you're not solid enough on the ball, the game's going to become super open like we've seen these last two matches, and teams are going to say, well, if this game's open and Atlanta's getting caught forward, we already know the two wing backs are going to be in the attacking third. So we just hit the ball into that space and we go. And we also know, and this has been under discussed, Eric Medi has been very, very bad in the number 6 role. And he's not providing a good security blanket for that back three either. So you've got a decent back three, yeah. I mean, yeah, you might have Escobar, Perez, Robinson, but then you look and say, well, those wide defenders and Miriam and Gressel, those aren't really defenders. Well, that center defensive mid that's supposed to come and help those center backs has been getting caught out of position constantly recently and be getting caught on the ball. So, I mean, I think there's a clear way to beat Atlanta United, and Atlanta United has got to play with a little more solidity, or they're going to be, I think, exposed consistently in the way that we saw them play the last two matches. The other side of it would be, well, when you play better teams in the playoffs, they're not going to sit back the same way. But you still might have teams that try to press you and counter. You might, like Atlanta United did in the postseason last year, right? It was not a defensive, we called it a more defensive Atlanta United last year, but their goal, their defense was their offense, was to go quick and counter, and you had the quality to do that. You're going to play teams in the postseason that can do exactly to Atlanta United this year what Atlanta United did to teams last year. And I just need to see more consistency, more identity, more cohesion, more organization, because I understand you're going to get countered every now and then, but it's just far too open for me right now to the tune of you're, not dominating the match against Columbus and Cincinnati. Sure.
I think we need to see Lorenowitz against.
I agree.
I think you're absolutely right. He's been in a terrible run of form.
Remedy, yeah.
And I think that at least to send that signal that, okay, we can't have this continue to Remedy. We need you to. These are important matches. We need you to step your game up. Throw in Lorenowitz, and look, it's not that far-fetched to think a guy like Jeff Lorenowitz can see the season out in that position if Remedy is just not able to do what he's been doing that's made him so lovable with Atlanta United up until the last few matches. Yeah. But he's got it, something's got to change there, because you're right, that security blanket that he provides Remedy, the security blanket that Remedy should provide isn't there right now.
Lorenowitz provided last year. I mean, and you look at it.
Lorenowitz is look, maybe he's not as technical as Remedy. Maybe he's not as fast as Remedy. But you know what you get out of Jeff Lorenowitz. He's very capable at that position. And it's not necessarily worse than Remedy at that position. It's just maybe a little bit different. But you know that with Lorenowitz, you have probably a stronger security blanket than you have right now. Or at least at this point, you have nothing to lose.
And to Remedi's credit, he played his best match in a while against Cincinnati, but it was Cincinnati. And I think the big difference between those two, Eric, is not, you don't need a super technical passing type player in that position with what Frank DeBoer wants. You want a guy that just reads the game well and can complete passes. And again, like I said, if you're going to have two wing backs that aren't really defenders, the ability of your defensive mid to first of all, stay back in position so he can help the center backs easily as opposed to getting, caught way out is very important. And also his ability to read the game, to kind of know, okay, the ball's moving to the right. I need to immediately cover for my right center back who's going to get pulled out wide. Eric Medi's just not the type of player. And I'm not even criticizing, aside from the fact his form hasn't been great. He's more of a ball-winning midfielder where he wants to chase the ball and go win it, and that's fine. But like I said, last year you had at least, even if you had Gressel on one side, you had Garzo or McCann on the other, a more defensive left back. So you always had 4 players kind of back defending, even if Remedi kind of went walkabout. But this year, like I said, you don't have that. Both your wingbacks go up. So you have to have an ultra-conservative number 6 that reads the game well and doesn't make mistakes. And Eric Remedi is just, first of all, not that type of play. Even at his best, he's not that type of player where he's just a little more he wants to go more box to box. And I think that's why Larentowicz and he were such a great pairing last year, because Remedi could go do what he did with the ball winning and Larentowicz could sit a little deeper. But the current system under De Boer only calls for one of those types of players because Darlington Nagbe has been so good. And Darlington Nagbe is not a player that wants to sit in front of the defenders. He's an 8. He wants to go box to box. So again, all the more crucial that you have someone that's smart, reads the game well, positionally sound, doesn't make mistakes on the ball. And Jeff Larentowicz fits that role better, and certainly with the general form Eric Remedi has been in until the Cincinnati match, I think you have to go Larentowicz going forward.
Fingers crossed on that one. We haven't seen much change in the last few matches outside of what was necessary with LGP and Pogba. But maybe after a match like this, look, because he did have a relatively better game than he's had in the last few weeks,
he was much better.
In all likelihood, Frank De Boer gives him another shot against San Jose. But I would like to see. You might just need to see something different, just to have maybe a more veteran presence, maybe a more vocal presence, and maybe a more of an enforcer.
Yeah, just someone that doesn't do a lot, right? Just someone that's in the right places, plays simple out of the back. That's Jeff Larentowicz, and that's why Jeff Larentowicz has been such a key cog in Atlanta, because his kind of stereotypical American white boy game of being super disciplined and fit and tough is able to compensate for the very creative, free-flowing players around him. So it's the same type of dynamic, but augmented, I think, even more. Because, like I said, you're playing wingbacks that don't defend it, and you're playing Darlington Nagbe as the other quote-unquote holding mid. So you need that holding mid to almost be like a stopper and just sit back.
Right.
And I do think Frank De Boer, to his credit, did have Eric Remedi playing that position. And, going back and watching the matches, it's clear that it's basically forming a diamond with the back 3 and then him sitting in front of the centralmost center back, and it forms a diamond. But too often he, just doing what he's used to doing would leave the space to go and try and win the ball, or, things like that. And you just can't afford to do that in such an attacking setup with a back 3. You just can't do it. And I see these problems all over the place for Atlanta United. And again, we're talking about winning MLS Cup here, not being a good team. It's a good team.
Right.
But you need to have a little more balance. You need to have an established identity. And I'm just not seeing that quite yet. There's still time to figure it out. We saw Atlanta United kind of figure out their identity in the postseason last year. Although I would argue it was kind of based off of some things you already learned about the team. I just don't know how this team plays best right now. I just don't, because
I don't think the team without Barco at 100%, at a high percentage, preferably 100%, but whatever you can get coming back from this knee injury. Without him, I don't think this team is going very far.
It just feels like if you are going to go far, it's going to be because Joseph with an incredible individual play, PT with an incredible individual play. It's hard to win 4 matches in a row against playoff teams doing that, And
those are good for single game wins.
Right.
Those are good for maybe a first round match, and then the next round you're going to get thumped.
Yeah.
That's maybe good for a one match. And I know he's scored in the last 15.
It could totally happen.
But scoring in 15 straight doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win all those games. Now, it just so happens that Atlanta United's won more often than not. But look at the last 3 matches. Yeah. You go up against Philadelphia and Columbus, you only score 1. They happen to be Joseph. To me, it just means that they're relying too much on just getting the ball to Joseph.
Yeah, and
that makes defending Atlanta United so much easier, especially when you can't dominate the middle of the field in enclosed spaces like that.
And it's because I just don't think there's a clear identity for the team yet. And I think
but that's the thing. I don't know. Sure, there's no identity. We can agree there.
Well, I think I know what they want to do.
I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they can physically. I don't think they physically have the talent to do it without Barco. I think dominating the middle of the field and playing 1-2 touch passes and stuff like that. That's just not going to happen near or outside the box for this team as it's constructed right now without Barco.
And if it does happen, you're basically saying, okay, well, hopefully our great players will make some great plays and we can outscore you. Sure. I don't see this Atlanta United team winning a match like they did in Yankee Stadium in the postseason last year. I don't see it.
I am a bit thankful, though, that this is assuming Barco's not playing for any part of this final stretch of the season and into the playoffs. I am thankful at a single elimination because I think that would tend to lead teams, especially teams that we might play, to bunker less because they're going to need to score.
Yeah.
So that might open up the match a little bit. And I think the team as constructed right now, without Barco, has a better chance to play has a better chance to win and score different ways, not necessarily just through Joseph, when the game is much more open, when they're not facing a low block type of team, when when the opposition doesn't have 10 guys in the box. That's, at least without Barco, that's where I think Atlanta United is going to thrive should they face those opponents. But that's not necessarily guaranteed, and I wouldn't want to bank on that. We'll see against San Jose because that's a team that's gonna play.
Yeah, that'll be.
It's gonna be an interesting match to see how it all works out, especially without Barco. Because if Atlanta United goes into that match as open as I feel like it's gonna be, and comes out looking fantastic, then you have hope for what the playoffs might look like should Barco not be there.
And I think hope. I mean, this is a talented team, so I think with or without Barco, I think we'll see this team start to figure.
They still found a way to win yesterday.
Like we said, it's just the personnel, right? Because you can't say, okay, we don't have Barco, we can't control the game the way we want. You can't do what Atlanta United did last year in the postseason and say, okay, we're just going to play 5 across the back and counter with our front 2, because you don't have fullbacks.
Yeah.
You who are you going to put at your left wing back spot? You could put Pogba there, I guess, or Parkhurst, but then what do you do with Escobar? Does he move to the right, or it's a tough situation because I don't see this team going back to 4 in the back at this point, especially. And when you play that back 3, you're just committed to an attacking kind of setup because of who you're playing as your wing backs. And I know I've said it a million times, but we can sit here and say, yeah, we don't think Atlanta United can play this way without Ezequiel Barco, but you don't really have any choice because you don't have the personnel to play a different way in a 3-back shape.
I think what I'm getting at, and I haven't really said it, I'm not going to.
Good for you, Eric.
I'm not going to specifically put the blame on Frank DeBoer if things don't go well in the playoffs, because I think that the personnel to fit any system, even anything that we had under Tata Martino, the personnel is just not there.
I think the personnel is unbalanced. You don't have depth everywhere, right? I think there's plenty enough attack. I like the center backs, but like we just said, you have these weird situations where playing an inverted winger as your left wing back, things like that.
I don't think we have enough in the attack.
Really?
Because I sit here and look at Hyman, and I'm like, okay, well, Hyman essentially is another Nagby. Nagby off the team, Hyman's taking that position. Mm-hmm. And you put Pereira in that spot or whatever. So you find a different player to put in that position, because he's not a guy that's going to quick pass you into death to open up space for Joseph or really to find a dangerous pass to Joseph. He's not by himself creating chances. Pity isn't by himself often enough, consistently enough creating chances. I know you got the assist. Relax.
Yeah, but again, think about how the assist came from. He's a great player. He was an open space.
He did what he's good at.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is that.
He's quality. He's an open. If everybody wanted to attack their whole team forward, like that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
I put the same kind of syndrome that he's got the same kind of syndrome that Tito has in tight spaces. Sure, every now and then he'll pull something off. And
wow, that's
awesome.
Harsh.
But it's true.
We all know hates.
It's true, though. It's true. I don't hate him.
Oh, yes, you do.
But there's a reason he's not playing.
Because you hate him. You ruined his confidence.
There's a reason he's not. Oh, yeah, because he's listening.
I blame Eric. The Eric curse.
I wonder if this has gotten around to him, by the way. Like, I wonder if he sees me in the dressing room and he's like, that guy.
Blame Eric.
Screw that guy.
Blame Eric.
If anyone knows, if anyone's got insider knowledge, let me know. I'm curious.
Well, I don't know, though. I think
have you last 3 matches have essentially been that type of team, minus maybe Columbus.
Yeah, but I think all 3 matches you controlled possession, but the game was still super open.
Sure, you controlled possession, but does that mean that you can dissect a team that's got 10 guys in the box?
I mean,
because the way that Atlanta United likes to play, and I don't see any other way they can play, given the team they have right now. But given the way that they're playing, this team is not consistently technical enough to win games.
I think saying consistently technical is
what
not
I mean.
the word.
What I say that because it's the same way I would describe Tito Villalba. He's a guy that he can pull it off, but it's not going to be consistent.
Right. Well, I'm
not saying he needs to nail it every time.
I would say,
but it needs to be more than like once every 10 chances.
Yeah.
It needs to be more often than that. It needs to be. Petty needs to either develop. He's got the skill, but he needs to utilize that skill much more often and have it come off much more often. For me to be convinced that that's a thing that the team can do in those tight spaces.
I think we learned that PT is not that guy when he was playing underneath Joseph in the 4-back. He was asked to be more box to box.
Miriam is more that guy, but specifically on the wing. Gressel's not that guy either. I'm not saying they've never done it. That's not what I'm saying. Don't get my words twisted. What I'm saying is that it's not consistent. It's that maybe they pull it off every now and then. Just because Tito Villalba has shown flashes of skill every now and then doesn't mean he can do it consistently. I think his lack of playing time this year, and Frank de Boer specifically talking about how he plays in tight spaces, and then Tata Martino essentially relegating him to a bench spot, a super sub, toward the end of the season last year. I think that's all we need to know. Don't give me crap about Tito Villalba. I think two top managers have said the same thing basically.
Yeah, right. Good for you, Eric. Genius. No, but so
I got a brain. I use it.
I am more so. You're right about Barco, but let's be fair. Most teams don't have two players like that, right? I mean, it's like
we don't have one player like that.
No, Barco. I mean,
sure, most teams. He's hurt. I'm talking about specifically.
That's how good he is. I mean, most teams, if you're lucky, you have two guys like that who are able to still attack in a dynamic way against a bunkering team with players around them. Those players don't grow on trees. But the problem is Atlanta United's personnel means that when that player is not in the lineup, like we just said, you still have to play the same way. And I think we need to address this, like we talked about in the offseason. Atlanta United front office has been great. They absolutely botched both fullback positions this year in the offseason. You traded Greg Garza. I know no one liked Chris McCann, but you let him go. You went into the season with a 16-year-old left back in George Bello, Breck Shea. And
he still only played one, though.
Who's played one match?
Not one MLS match.
Well, which again goes to show why it was maybe a bit much to have this guy your first choice starter. Then you have Breck Shea. You're unlucky, right? Breck Shea tears his ACL. Although I think many would argue is a downgrade from Greg Garza, although I would counter with Garza's hurt all the time. Mikey Ambrose.
I also think he's maybe more defensive than Miriam, but effectively doing the same thing Miriam's doing. Maybe not as high, but effectively still doing.
But I still would rather have Breck Shea back. I know that people get on him for his 1v1 defending, but I would still rather have Breck Shea back than Justin Miriam, who has probably never played left back in his entire life. Because there are times where you're going to have that player come back and defend. So you got Breck Shea with the injury. Mikey Ambrose has been in and out all year, but most importantly, he's been back, and clearly Frank de Boer just doesn't rate the guy. Jose Hernandez clearly doesn't rate. So you went into the season left back with basically two left backs the manager was willing to give minutes to. One of them was 16 years old. The other one was Breck Shea, who was injured. You're unlucky. We talked about – I talked much more about the right side, how it was ridiculous the team went into the season with Franco Escobar and no one else as your right back. And so you're in this position now because of injuries and, for instance, Ambrose maybe being in bad form, where you just don't have a choice. Where you have to play a super attacking Gressel on one side because you need to play Escobar as one of the center backs. You have no left backs healthy other than Mikey Ambrose. So you play Miriam there. The crux of the problem here, Eric, is yes, you miss Barco, but any team would miss their most dynamic player. The problem is you don't have the ability because of those lack of depth with your fullbacks. You don't have the ability to fall back into a shell and play more defensively. You just don't.
I think the idea in bringing in Pitty was that he was going to be either the one or the two in the 1-2 punch that was going to be Barco and Pitty. But that just hasn't panned out the way they thought it would. I'm not saying that Pitty is a bad player or that he's not good for Atlanta, but the vision they had for him with Atlanta United, that specific vision hasn't panned out. He's panned out in a different way, a good way. It's different than what I think they originally had.
And I don't want to say that too much. I mean, I feel part of it is also us as fans thinking he was going to be a different type of player than he was. If if they thought that he was going to do the things you're talking about, Eric, I mean, how can you be dynamic and positive when there are 4 or 5 players around you and consistently hold on to the ball? If the idea was for him to be that player the way Barco is, I think he was pretty much exposed as not being able to be that player earlier in the season.
Let me be clear. I still think that this team would struggle with the FC Cincinnati would have looked relatively the same with Almiron in the lineup.
Yes,
because I think you're still. It would have been sure. It would have been.
I don't think you're getting hit as often on the counter.
I still think going forward in the attack, we're talking about specifically in the final third and in the attacking half and all that stuff. The team looks exactly the same. Almiron, no Almiron. So it's a product of Atlanta United not being able to figure out over the last 3 years how to break down. To me, it seems obvious. To me, it seems okay. Well, if we're going to basically you concede possession, you play real deep, hope that you can draw FC Cincinnati out.
Yeah.
And then you chuck it long.
But you can't do that though, because then you have Miram and Gressel trying to go defend 1v1.
Sure, but but then you got to make a switch at halftime. If you know that that's what FC Cincinnati is going to do,
but there's no fullbacks. I mean, you could put Parkhurst there.
There's something you can do.
But I don't mind Frank de Boer saying, all right, I mean, we've got to go for the win, right? We don't want to sit back at halftime when it's 0-0. I just think.
No, and I think that's what he told his team. I remember.
He said to be patient.
Yeah. But I think the direction was to maybe not hold on to possession as often because, again, you weren't breaking that down. They pulled back. They started playing longer balls.
And you did have less possession in the second half. You did. Yeah. But I also think, Eric, like, if a team bunkers and you're going to have a lot of the ball, you don't totally mind the game being boring, right? If you have top players, you don't mind. And you're going to say eventually, as long as we play positively and we go at them, we're going to have the individual players to break in. This game was way too open. The Columbus game was way too open. If a team is going to sit back on you and defend, Eric, you say Atlanta haven't figured out how to do it. I just think it's damn hard. I mean, it's hard to break down a block of 5 and a block of 4.
I also think the other thing about it is that Atlanta knew that they had this absolutely was going to have to be a win after what happened in Columbus. They went to this match knowing that maybe puts a little bit more pressure on them. Maybe they try exert a little too much effort in certain things, and that causes maybe a lack of custody, whatever. They go into this match knowing that they have to win. Maybe that adds that the added pressure just does something to them that they didn't expect. They got to find a way to get over that. Go into these matches knowing that sure they are the better team. They could easily lose this game. They could have easily lost this game against FC Cincinnati, which would have been after the Columbus thing would have been ultimately embarrassing.
Could have easily drawn it too.
Absolutely.
I was thinking 0-0, honestly.
But there's got to be there's. I don't know who's got to be the message. I don't know if that's someone in the starting 11 on the field, or if that needs to come from Frank de Boer. Something had to change in those moments, because and maybe Frank de Boer was like, you know what, let's just ride out the first half, let's just see how it goes, and then the second half we'll make adjustments. Yeah. Typically, that's what coaches do. And again, you saw that they were. I'm not going to say deliberately giving up possession, but they were much more open to playing longer balls, finding much more open spaces, much more willing to get on the counter. Obviously the first goal, it was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But as soon as Tito gets into the game, he adds the pressure after the Guzan goal kick. How often do we see Guzan goal kicks?
You mean go
long? Yeah, on goal kicks. Not
that often. Yeah, and
more often than not,
he does put in there. It's usually like a little ping to the touch line or something. Not like he just bombs it down the pitch.
But in this case, he's just bombing it forward, hoping to create some chaos. That's exactly what happens. Then you get the magic that Joseph is in the second game.
And that's a tweak you can make, right? You can say, look, we're possession-based, but and for all we know, Frank de Boer's probably been harping on this all year.
Sure.
It's not an uncommon thing, but it's like, look, when we get in a position where Cincinnati or whoever are caught out, whether it be quick distribution for the keeper, or attacking them from a corner or whatever, you better go direct then, because those chances are few and far between where you're actually going to be able to open them up defensively.
I think the idea that Frank DeBoer, even in those moments, would be like, no.
Because why would you say that?
Stop, relax.
Like, why are people like, no, when it's 3v2, Frank DeBoer's like, no, but
Frank
bring
DeBoer's
it back, let the defense get set.
You may not like him, you may think he's dumb, he's not that
No
dumb,
one is that dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, at least no one with an A license or whatever he has is that dumb. But, yeah, it's so funny. Like
I've heard that a couple of times. Like, even when they're 1v1 with the keeper, you tell them to pull it back and possess it.
That's like saying if you play like a slow four corners offense in basketball, you get a breakaway.
You're just gonna no, come on,
run the offense. Pretty ridiculous. But we'll see.
Look, it was a win. That's all that really matters.
And San Jose is going to be super interesting. It's a much better opponent. And the way they play, I think Almeida is more of a similar style and way to what Atlanta United does. So it's going to be a totally different type of game. But again, I think you might run into the same problems where you're going to have more of the ball, and you need to make sure that if you have a lot of the ball, that the game's not that open, that whether it's slow, fast, medium speed, whatever, is being played in the opposition's half, and then whether it's boring or not, hopefully you have the individual quality to break through. But it's going to be a much, much tougher match against San Jose. It's a much better opponent than Columbus and Cincinnati.
And look, while they're much better, I think they've won like 2 of the last 7 matches they played.
They definitely tailed off. They had a great run
yeah.
in the middle of the season. They've definitely tailed off.
The teams they have beaten is Vancouver and Orlando in the last 7 matches. So we know Orlando City and Vancouver hasn't been great either this year. Right now they're at 6 so in the West. So they certainly want to improve their playoff position. They got a chance to shoot up.
They're great at home,
least.
Though.
Yeah, at
least lost 3 all year at home.
At least into 4th place if everything goes their way this weekend. Well, that would be best case scenario, heading to 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely see this as opportunity to get more points, improve their playoff standings, and try to kind of ruin the party for Atlanta United. No, not even ruin the party because it's at their house. So they're trying to do what they can to win at home, to do what they got to do to, again, improve their stock in the playoffs and find a way to win. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm more optimistic about this match than I was FC Cincinnati, especially after Columbus, because of how open this game should be.
Yeah, because San Jose, like you said, you're at home. You're going to go for 3 points.
They're not going to.
What am I talking about? Atlanta's at home, but I think San Jose will play a little more open. And Almeida pretty much plays open no matter what, right? So we'll see. I think in some ways, I think it could be a dangerous match because just like I said, the way that San Jose try to play, and they do have so much more, in my opinion, a bit more attacking quality. And I know we love to jump on Chris Wondolowski because he's Chris Wondolowski.
We spent 20 minutes talking about this. Well, Sam would have spent 20 minutes talking about
Right, yeah.
And it's hate for Chris Wondolowski for something he did.
Well, I know we get on him, and I like to get on Chris Wondolowski too, because if you're the leading MLS goal scorer of all time, that means you played in MLS a long time, which means people in better leagues probably didn't want you. But anyways, I had to get it in. But if Chris Wondolowski, if the game's open, and like I said, you're getting hit into these open spaces. If Chris Wondolowski is on the end of these chances that some of the Cincinnati guys were, that ball's going to be in the back of the net. If he's on the end of the chance that Dally was on at the very end, he skied it from inside. It's like, this team is so bad. Chris Wondolowski is finishing.
Well, he's proven that at times he does make those opportunities.
That's
true. There's
true.
the Sam Franco shot right there.
There we go. Sam lives. But also they've got a really good midfield. I've really enjoyed San Jose when I've watched them play, and I think that again,
it's just fun because they're not defensive.
Yeah.
As much as a team like FC Cincinnati.
Like you said, Eric, that could work in your hands, right? Because
I'm interested to see what it looks like, because I got to think that those are the type of teams you're going to see in the playoffs. Because in a single elimination tournament, you got to score. You definitely don't want to leave it to PKs. You would rather not leave it to PKs. So at least in the first 45, you're going to try to come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
Once you score, it's a different story. But at least to start the match, you're going to want to come out and play no matter who you are.
Right.
I don't know that many of the teams that would make the playoffs are bunkering teams anyway at this point, but you get my point.
Yeah, and I think, San Jose remind me.
My point is that we're probably going to see these teams that open up the field a little bit. And so I want to see what this team without Barfield looks like with the guys, maybe Remedi or Lorenowitz in for Remedi, that being the only change.
Uh-huh.
Let's see how this team looks against a team that we would more likely see in the playoffs than maybe the rest of the season.
Right. And I think the big similarity you'll see with San Jose is that, I think they might they've had a good amount of possession this year. It's similar to Atlanta United last year, where they had a lot of possession. It wasn't a prerequisite for the way they play, but since they're so aggressive and press a lot, they inevitably end up with a lot of the ball. I think you'll see San Jose, except they're not going to have a lot of the ball when they play Atlanta United, but they're going to press and they're going to try to win the ball back. And that's more what you're going to see for Atlanta United. Yeah, you might not see a team drop back with a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, but you will see some teams, I think, get back behind the ball and then have their midfield press and try to win the ball back. So that's going to be the big test for Atlanta United is, like you said, Eric, do you have the consistent technical ability to deal with a team that maybe is not just sitting back and absorbing pressure, but is maybe playing with a little more of a defensive setup, but it's also pressing you constantly trying to win the ball back and counter, which is exactly what Atlanta United did last year in the postseason.
It's not as necessary as a team that as it would be against a team that bunkers, especially if it's open, but that is something I will be looking forward to seeing, should they be able to figure it out, is how consistently technical they can be in those moments where they do maintain or do have the bulk of possession. This is what I hate, they force the other team to sit back.
Right, that's what you want. You want to force a team back and right. Yeah.
Sure. In any other scenario where you did have players that could technically beat the crap out of you in the final third, you would want that to happen, but the way Atlanta is formatted right now, not the case. That match, Saturday, 3:30.
Is that one of those? It's only Univision, and they lie about the kickoff time like no other channel. Is that kickoff actually at 4?
Probably.
Anyways,
pregame at 3:50.
Keep an eye on that, y'all, for the actual kickoff time, because Univision has.
So it is an Univision match.
Yeah.
So
make sure you
listen
to the Spanish commentators.
That match starts
if you're on TV watching.
Pregame at 3:20.
Oh, okay. So maybe it is like a 3:30.
Oh, I don't know. I'm making that up.
Oh, you're just making stuff up. Good job, Eric.
It's supposed to be a 3:30 start, but we probably won't start till like 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And if you're trying to stream it, you probably won't get it anyway.
Oh boy, but it's
good thing it'll be on Twitter.
It's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be open. I think it's gonna be a really, really fun match to watch, and like I said earlier, a much better representation of the, like we said, you're not gonna see teams bunker in the postseason, but you're gonna see teams look to counter you through their high pressure and pressure through the midfield. That's what you're going to see from San Jose this weekend. So a great kind of litmus test for Atlanta United to figure out where you are in a single game elimination scenario.
Let's hope so. All right. I was going to get into something else. Did you see the deep cuts with Joseph Martinez?
Which one was this?
The video that came out today where he's with the barber.
Oh, I saw about haircuts. Yes.
It was fantastic. Have you not gotten to see it yet?
No, I saw it making the rounds on Twitter.
And we rushed this thing a little bit there at the beginning, but
what's good about it?
If you haven't seen it, it's just more of a Joseph Martinez's personality. You don't often see what he's actually like. You see things differently in the dressing room. So I have seen a little bit. I've seen a little bit of what he is. More.
How would you?
His personality, but it comes off very well in the video that.
How would you peg him personality-wise? He seems like
kind of a nerdy goofball.
Yeah, right. Because it's funny because on the field, he's kind of your stereotypical kind of like but then he seems
off
very.
The field, he's
very like goofy and silly and like but obviously love Joseph Martinez.
But yeah, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. I'm trying to think. There was another thing I wanted to bring up.
If you're interested, by the way, we did a Talking Tactics a couple months ago on how to specifically break down a bunker and got the magnets out. So you can check that out on MOTS Podcast YouTube page. And obviously, if you look at the specifics of how to break it down, Barco is absolutely critical for breaking down the bunker the way that we described. The other thing I was going to bring up, Eric, and we don't have enough time to go deep into this, there's going to be a player lockout next year, man. I think don't even know. I mean, I think you're going to have, and we'll be talking about this much more in the months to come.
They're going to get every single thing that they should.
Well, if you consider,
there's no way that a team that's dependent as heavily as they are on their players, that they don't get every single thing they want. And it's not that they're not that difficult of changes.
But that just like and I'm always on the player side when it comes to lockouts because I always take the millionaires side over the billionaires side, or in this case, these guys not even
the millionaires and the billionaires.
But the owners are obviously going to try and get every dime they can. That's how they became as successful, I assume, financially as they are. But there's got to be a huge gap between when you consider the pay increases where the league is given more allocated money, the quality of product on the field, the type of big names you're getting in, the expansion, and then these guys are flying charter and not, there is clearly a huge gulf between what the players want and deserve and between what they're getting right now. And I just feel like it's going to be nasty, and we might miss some regular season time last year even because, the growth of MLS over the last 2 or 3 years has been huge. I think it's going to take a while for the owners to give up what they need to give up to compensate through paycheck and otherwise these players for the level that the league is now at and the levels that those players have brought the league to.
For sure. I don't know if you want to talk about this. I did want to bring it up because we do have a lot of fans.
I'm intrigued.
In supporters groups.
Okay.
Jeff Carlisle tweeting out about 2 hours ago the meeting between MLS and 3 supporters groups, and this is regarding a united front, exceeded 3 hours. Though there have been several breaks for each side to huddle together, no word yet on the meeting. No word yet that the meeting is close to concluding. About an hour ago, so let's say around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Meeting between MLS and the supporters groups has concluded. Supporters groups declined to comment beyond saying they need to debrief. Then Timbers Army, this is retweeted by Jeff Carlisle. I'll generalize by saying the supporter groups have concluded a meeting with MLS regarding Iron Front imagery, fan code of conduct, and inclusion education. At this time, no final decision has been made, and we look forward to continuing our conversation Tuesday, 9/24.
So
there's literally no news. I'm just letting you know that there's no news.
Classic Eric.
Build it up and break it down right there.
I mean, it's not really, I think, we're not really the podcast that goes that deep into these issues. Obviously we love our listeners that are in supporters group, but
I do criticize some.
I guess I am a member of the faction, but I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself someone that's ensconced in the supporters group, supporter section lifestyle. And then you get free tickets, and I
don't get tickets.
And free.
Everyone thinks I get tickets. I don't
press
get tickets.
passes,
no one
whatever.
Tickets.
You're the bougiest.
I get a pass that Atlanta United can revoke at any point.
Yeah, well, hopefully they don't listen to this podcast.
I'm lucky and thankful that they give me the access that they give me.
They clearly are unaware of the content you are providing.
Oh, please.
No. And then Sam, I think when he goes, I don't think he sits in the supporter section. Someone would probably try to beat him up. But
are we allowed to? Am I allowed to criticize them?
Sam?
No,
please.
Supporters groups.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into this because I just don't know too much about the culture. I'm pretty far away from it. It does seem like MLS are flying by the seat of their pants on this one. But
I obviously am not I too am not ensconced in the supporters group culture.
Yes. You don't even buy tickets, so I don't know.
But
your opinion is meaningless.
Here's what I do know. Resurgence's little protest did absolutely nothing.
Oh, right. Right.
If you want an example of how to protest, you got to put your money where your mouth is and do exactly what Seattle did. That's a great example of how to protest.
Well, and there's Portland as well, where the entire supporters were silent for 30
Well, it's not
minutes.
silence; it's leaving.
Well, Seattle left, and Portland did.
See, Portland is much more impactful because their supporters groups are much more.
It wasn't every single supporters group.
Right.
Silent.
It's much more unified. But with Atlanta United, you've got different sects of supporters. How many different supporters groups do we have at this point? Like 16?
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I am saying is that not everyone's going to be on the same page. So if you want to show your disapproval of what's going on with something that has nothing to do with Atlanta United specifically, then get up and leave. That the image is much more impactful than you doing nothing. And that's essentially what he did. I mean,
I think
protest what you want to protest. I have no problem
Portland was effective. My issue
because they're all united and because the stadium in the visual, the audio impact, I guess in this case, of an entire of a Providence Park completely silent as grown men play soccer, that's different from a sect of supporters groups within Atlanta United being quiet for 15 minutes.
Well, I think
that's completely different.
That would be more the thing. I wouldn't say I feel like it's not
it's
my
really,
place.
It really isn't my place either.
My personal opinion is that the silence is.
I thought this was America.
The silence is Randy Marsh.
I'm allowed to criticize the protest.
No, we can say stupid stuff all we want.
And in turn, they can tell me I'm an idiot. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I welcome it.
So I think that I mean, for me personally, and like I said, my opinion means nothing on this. So don't take it personal.
My criticism isn't to crap on any supporters groups. My criticism is that, look, if you're gonna protest something, the way you went about it, that it did nothing.
Yeah.
There needs to be a visual impact to what you're doing, to what you're protesting, to what your disapproval of whatever is. If not the visual impact, right. Or in Portland's case, and Portland is different because they, as unified as they are, no cheering in Providence Park. That is an impact. That is on TV. That has a visual impact.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So you had Portland, the entire supporters group was silent, or supporter section for 35 minutes, like you said, Eric. In this case, it was just during Resurgence's turn. Let me be real with you, because, like I said, I don't sit in the supporter section, and most of the people that sit around me are, again, not ensconced in supporter section debate and culture and all that. Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed,
and that's the visual impact that was
because
missing.
If you do it, if you decide to just do it for 15 minutes when it's been happening the other time. Nobody noticed. I mean, I don't want to say nobody, but it just
you didn't send the message you wanted to send.
Yeah, and
that certainly did not happen. You lowered some flags, and that was
because I agree.
You did a favor to the guys behind you.
I completely agree with the protest. I think MLS.
I do too.
Clearly have
I do too.
No idea what they're doing with this rule, and also none of this would have happened if MLS had just put their foot down the way they are with Atlanta United supporters. With supporters, I mean, I know that you hear mostly about the NYCFC supporters, the Proud Boys. I don't call them the Proud Boys. I call them the Proud Boys because it just makes them sound like children, which they are. I think if MLS had just put their foot down with that, then I don't think you'd be having all these issues right now. So I do think that MLS has handled this so poorly, and they just don't seem to really themselves understand what the criteria for the rule is. And I know it's a big deal of, no political imagery, but then you've heard clubs come out, like Portland came out and said, we're fine with scarves and shirts, but we just don't want a huge banner with outwardly political stuff. You got to come up with a better standardization for it. And finally,
if you're going to say no political stuff, then please do away with the national anthem. Do away with all the America imagery that we have before the games. Don't do the Canadian national anthem. Don't do anything political at all.
Well, but I mean, you could also.
I would actually welcome that, because I think that's a dumb tradition we have by itself. But
it's a tough one to police.
My bigger issue, and
we're not here if MLS gets this in the bud in New York.
I agree to an extent with the reason the protest happened. I think the way it was Resurgence went about it. I think the way that other teams or other supporters groups and with other teams did it had a much better visual impact. And I think if you're going to do something like that, put your money where your mouth is.
And it would be nice for the entire supporters.
Get up and leave.
Or like I said, if you're going to be quiet, it can't be.
You can't do that. Again, it's got to be visual.
No, but you just said it would work if everyone did it.
Providence Park is an exception.
I disagree. I don't like that. Oh, you have to walk out to show. I just think that the fact that the United Front was not united.
Then it clearly isn't that big of a deal to you.
No, that was the first thing I said.
I don't. No, not to you specifically. To the people that were protesting.
I mean, maybe. I mean, come on. I don't want to get.
I want to protest. I want to protest, but I also want to stick around and watch the game for the full 90 minutes.
Okay. Well, I mean,
you can't have it both ways. Either you don't like the rule, or you're okay with it enough that you're going to stick around.
I think you're overgeneralizing now. I mean, I disagree with the specific tactic, but I don't feel like you have to walk out to get people's attention. I mean, there are other things you could do. It's just that selecting a 15-minute period to be quiet, people don't notice because they heard the first 30 minutes, and then you're kind of locked into the game. Most people didn't notice. I mean, it was still a great atmosphere for those 15 minutes. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, like I said, I don't feel like it's my place. I'm completely on the side of the protesters. It just, I didn't think it had the impact that you'd like it to have. And hopefully this mess in general can be fixed some way, somehow going forward, because you don't want these types of issues in the stands. So
I don't think anything's going to change. I think you might have some verbiage change, but essentially the message is going to be the same, where they're going to be okay with all political. Well, they're going to have what is it?
But that's no the political thing. Like, I mean, that's why these are always tough, right? Because if you say okay, political stuff's okay, then what if somebody comes in with a Confederate flag and says this is because that's political. And then says, well, it's okay. This is allowed. I think you have to.
I would say this. How many people do you see actually doing that?
Not many. No,
you
but
might see one.
But
or
that's
two
the
people.
problem, right? I mean that
doesn't represent an entire.
I'm not saying it does.
But that's the thing. That's where this idea of we need to protest this comes from. Is from a select few fans, the tiniest of minorities.
No, but I think
and that gets blown up to mean that all NYCFC fans are like this.
That
doesn't
that's
happen.
True.
The political speech that the MLS or that the fans are worried about, or wait, no, whatever. The political speech that essentially everyone wants banned from it's such a small minority that it doesn't make that much of an impact.
You mean of the actual speech that people want banned, because it's particularly extreme. Yeah, I mean,
so the Young Boys. Everyone hears about the Young Boys and like,
the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys.
They're proud 8-year-old boys.
The Proud Boys.
They're very
like,
proud.
and everyone knows that they're a bunch of idiots. What more needs to be done about? Sure, maybe don't let them into the game.
But Eric, I mean,
don't let them into the game. But there's such a small minority.
But that's what I said, right? And that's where MLS screwed up. Is if they had just banned these guys from NYCFC matches, then it would. I don't think we'd get to this place.
Why is that on MLS and not NYCFC?
Because well, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
I'm actually okay with MLS.
And people have criticized NYCFC for not properly identifying and
you want to kick it. If NYCFC wants to kick out those guys, yeah, sure, absolutely, do it.
That's true.
There's such a tiny minority anyway that I don't think don't blow things out of proportion.
Yeah, but I don't think of course it doesn't represent the whole fan base, but I mean, even there are one or two people with the particularly hateful political speech, or I don't even want to say necessarily political, but the hateful speech that even if it's one or two people, that could offend hundreds. So I in a visceral, personal way, because we're not talking about, we're talking about white nationalists.
I understand.
We're not.
I just don't.
So even if it's two or three things,
I don't see it happening enough to where I'm like, okay, at specifically at MLS games, where it's that big of a deal.
I agree, but that's why if MLS had just taken care of this for NYCFC, then it would have been a big deal. So right. I mean, anyways, like I said, I think I really do hope a solution is found to this. It bothers me that
because here's the thing: if you ask for absolutely no political speech, it's got to go the other way as well.
Right, and
if you ask for any political speech, then you got look. You might not like it, but it is political speech.
Well, that's how they screwed themselves over with this rule, right?
You do no political speech, then that's fine. No political speech at all. You do the other way, then you got to let everything in.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rather have no political speech. Let's all enjoy the game. Let's go do politics after the match.
Yeah, but we live in on Earth, Eric. Right. So I mean, we have to be realistic. I mean, you could say no hateful speech, but then somebody might.
The realistic.
But someone might say, well, I consider this hateful, and
The realistic thing would be look at that guy. He's a moron, and then move on with your day. That would be the realistic thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
don't be offended by every little thing.
Ground anymore. But I mean, again, we're talking about white nationalists, Eric. We're not talking about somebody being upset about someone having a trickle down economics poster. We're talking about white nationalists, far right. I mean, it only takes.
You did say you wanted to talk politics earlier, so
I know.
We've done that. All right,
I know.
We're gonna wrap it up because this is going down a path that we probably don't want to.
You started. I didn't even want to talk about it.
I didn't even want to go this far down it.
Like I said, my opinion on particularly the Atlanta United fan side of this is totally worthless. So you can totally disregard. But I mean, like I said, I completely empathize and understand the frustration from the supporters groups, and hopefully this is a problem we can fix. Because I have no issue with political speech at sports. I think it's a part of history. I think it's a part of soccer, but it's hard when, particularly the times we live in now, to draw a line between what might be considered political speech and might be political speech that invokes strong emotional reactions.
I have a
It's difficult.
I have a high standard. Never mind. I just want me personally. I don't get offended by much. If I see someone with a Confederate flag, or if I see
well, good for you.
Someone,
I mean,
someone
me
that,
neither. But
someone that clearly supports white nationalism, whatever. I'm gonna look at that guy and be like, he's an idiot. I'm gonna move on with my day.
Yeah, but
he's not influencing me, and he shouldn't. This is the thing. He shouldn't influence anybody else.
Oh, come on, Eric.
You should see that and be like, all right.
But you don't have the personal connection to white nationalism, and neither do I, and all the things, all the bad that it's caused to tell someone, I'm not offended by this, neither should you. I mean, I think that's a bit presumptuous. Either way, what are we talking about?
All right.
What are we talking about?
Final thoughts?
You can follow me on Twitter at JoshB914 for my soccer takes, probably not much political stuff.
Start over, do it again, because we're going to delete all that.
At JoshB914 on Twitter.
You can find me at Eric G. Quintana. You can follow the podcast at MOTS Podcast. And what else is there? Patreon.com/MOTS Podcast. Follow the YouTube channel.
Radio show every Wednesday.
That does it. All right. Until next time. See you later, Lana.
Bye. Good night. Thanks for listening, y'all.